WGSO 990 AM or North Shore Radio LLC.
All right, New Orleans, welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the Jack Clegg Show. And you're listening to WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com, or you may be watching the podcast online. I'm going to start the show a little differently than I have because I want to ask the audience for some help. I need some help here. What we've got coming up in New Orleans, several big football games, including January 1st, the Sugar Bowl. And we'll have a lot of out-of-towners. And I've been asked by a couple of friends to give a recommendation. They've asked me, what is the best Cajun restaurant in downtown New Orleans? They're coming in for the game. People are coming in for the game. They'll be staying downtown, whatnot. Now, I have one restaurant that I like a lot, but I don't want to say it here because they're not my sponsor yet. But I'd like you to call in the show and give a recommendation. You don't have to talk to me. You can tell Kobe, and he'll keep a running total of the restaurants. Cajun restaurants in the downtown warehouse district area that you recommend as the best Cajun restaurant, because I have a dear friend that I told her that I would help. And so you can. Okay, now the show. What are we going to talk about tonight? Well, there's three topics that I want to get to. One of them, again, and I think I said this several weeks ago, when Mike Johnson was elected the Speaker of the House. I was so proud of him. He is a terrific guy, and he's a great lawyer, constitutional lawyer, a real constitutional lawyer. And his view of America is terrific. It's unquestioning the way that he follows what the forefathers envisioned for America in today's knockout, drag-out battle between Democrats and Republicans. And the fights within the Democratic Party, the fights within the Republican Party, all of that newsmaking. This guy, Johnson, Mike Johnson, focuses on the problems we have, but the best part about Mike Johnson is he has a solution. And we're going to talk about the biggest problem that I see, and again, I practiced law for forever, and the biggest problem I see is with our Department of Justice and FBI. They are becoming way too powerful and are placing their interests and their political interests above real investigations, real crimes, and being our federal government's law enforcement mechanism. And I'm going to go into the specifics about that during the show. And by the way, I forgot to mention that for callers on the Cajun restaurant in New Orleans and on all the other topics, our radio phone number is 504-556-9696. That's 504-556-9696. Okay. The second topic that we're going to discuss tonight is extraordinarily disturbing. And it was disturbing when I read it. It's going to be disturbing when I mention it tonight. It has to do with the Biden administration's administrative state. And by administrative state, I mean all the departments. And we've talked about them for weeks and weeks and weeks on the show. In particular, we're going to talk about the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, we've all talked about how immigration is a crisis. The Mayorkas, the head of the Department of Homeland Security has completely dropped the ball. He's horrible. But the Department of Health and Human Services has a role to play. What's their role? What do? They are in charge of unaccompanied minors. That makes sense, right? Health and Human Services. These people would know what to do. And there was an article written in the New York Times this spring, which is surprising because that's a liberal rag and they're in favor of Democrats and so forth and so on. But occasionally they will have an article that just is factual and it sets out where the country is. Their article this spring on the unaccompanied minors said there were 85,000 of them that the Department of Health and Human Services didn't know where they lived. What happens when they cross over? They're detained for, I think, 30 days until sponsors come forward. Sponsors get them, and the HHS had no addresses. Where are they? We don't know where they are. In the article, the New York Times stated that there are lots of horrible stories running around. Some of the kids, teenagers, are forced to work. They're prevented from going to school. There's other problems involving pedophilia and some sick stuff. But we're going to talk about what the governor of Iowa, the elder statesman in the Republican Party, the letter that he sent to HHS about the administrative rule they're proposing. They proposed it in September. We finally got a copy of the letter that Grassley, the senator from Iowa, sent to them about what's going on. And the third issue that we're going to talk about tonight is the problem that we're having, failing to vet these people, is another issue with illegal immigration, and that is in New York, they're making another run at registering illegal aliens to vote. Can you believe it? Somebody commented that what are they going to do? Vote for better hotel rooms and suites instead of rooms? No, we've got a story that came out yesterday that I have to share with everybody because it has always been considered that the Democrats were in favor of illegal immigration so they could register so many people to vote. Well, now, according to a congresswoman from New York, they found the smoking gun, a contract between the city of New York and this nonprofit agency to take care of immigrants in shelters contains a requirement that they register them to vote. We're going to talk about that in some detail. All right. Those are the three topics we're going to get to. How much time do we have left? We have time. We have a minute left. All right, let's go to the Cajun whistleblower called. He's been on hold since before the show began. He must have something to share with us. How are you this evening, sir?
I am greatly blessed. Good evening, brother and sister pro-life, whistleblowing parents, patriots, pet owners, police, military, cowboys, and cowgirls. Play ball. The war in Israel, the precious, and America the beautiful continues. Right now, at this very moment, tens of thousands, yes, millions of Mexican Chi-Com cartel mafia terrorist activists are attacking, invading Texas, America border, burning, looting, murdering, Antifa, domestic campus communists. That's right, campus communist terrorist activists are planning and carrying out domestic terrorist attacks all across America, the beautiful. Israel the precious is in a fight for its very survival. Hamas, Hezbollah, Nazi Iranian leaders, and Nazi terrorists want to murder and destroy Israel from the river to the sea. We, the people of America and Israel, have the right to preserve, protect, and defend our businesses, property, families, and friends.
Okay.
Wake up, America, Israel, amen.
All right. Well, that's good timing. We've got 10 seconds before we take a break. Thanks for listening to the show. This is the Jack Clegg Show on WJSO 990 AM. We'll be back in a few moments.
The Easy Pet Pet Shop and Rescue is a nonprofit volunteer-run rescue. We provide adoption services and care for homeless animals across the New Orleans metro area. We also offer pet supplies and grooming services at our downtown and Marigny locations. The shops are located at 839 Spain Street and 513 Dumaine Street and are open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays and noon to 6 on Saturdays, noon to 5 on Sundays. We can be found on the web at BigEasyPetShop.com. Support local animals in need by shopping and adopting with Big Easy Animal Rescue.
Hi, this is Kevin Carr, host of Fat Guys at the Movies. Listen every Sunday at 8 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM, the community voice of the Crescent City.
Hello, y'all. Let's talk daily from 4 to 5 about our town. The Cynthia Clark Show is powered by Vinyltech, the Gulf Coast premier exterior home improvement expert.
Do you have ghosts in your house? Well, I do. Hi, it's Bloody Mary, your local spirit guide, psychic medium, and celebrity ghost hunter. I run the Haunted Museum and Voodoo Spirit Shop in the French Quarter. Come do a ghost hunt with us and sharpen your communication skills with the other side. Don't be afraid. I'll teach you how to as we learn and do. Go ghost hunting, join a Victorian seance, and explore the beyond. Did you know that you can even plan an entire haunted night at the museum for your private party, 7 days, 7 nights? Join us, BloodyMaryNewOrleans.com.
Now, everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
If you relate to these clips playing in the background, you will relate to Everything Old is New Again right here on WGSO. Hi, this is Douglas Viviani of Everything Old is New Again. Join us for the fun on Saturday mornings at 8 right here on the community voice of the Crescent City, WGSO.
Sky-high interest rates are forcing more and more homeowners to remodel instead of build.
If that's you, call me, Shane Mulkey, with Vinyltech. During our end-of-the-year blowout sale, let us make your home look new for less. Save big now on siding, gutters, stucco, patio covers, and roofing from Vinyltech. Get your home ready for the holidays. Call Vinyltech now, 504-469-7590. Vinyltech. VinylTechNola.com.
Hey, it's Christian. DTS Appliance Direct is moving to City Park. Go now to their current location, 3240 Paris Road in Chalmette, right next to Winn-Dixie. DTS Appliance Direct is liquidating their current inventory up to 25% off on appliances, high-end appliances, Z-Line, Blaze Grill, Monogram, Cafe, Hire, and many more. Call DTS Appliance Direct, 504-766-0738. Take advantage of this massive, massive deal. Call DTS Appliance Direct, 504-766-0738.
Join me, Mitch Gibbs, every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. for our 8th season of Breakfast with the Bayou Bengals, live from the Silver Slipper Casino in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome to the second segment of the Jack Clgg Show. And before we get to our caller on hold, I want to go into a little bit of detail about what Speaker Johnson did. He actually did this about 2 weeks ago, and we had no coverage whatsoever. But as you know, there are many, many, many hearings going on in Congress. They have that obligation. Congress has the obligation to oversee the federal agencies. And I just this morning saw one. It was about 12 days ago. And the point that Speaker Johnson was making, great point, and he's so articulate and measured in the language that he uses. He was talking about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. And he wasn't going at it saying, oh, they shouldn't go after Trump, or they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. He was looking at an institutional problem that they're having, which is the job of oversight. You know, and I don't think Congress's job is to micromanage, but it is to give oversight consistent with the Constitution and the balance of power between the entities. There's a reason why in the Constitution, Congress, with its elected officials, the representatives and senators, there's a reason that they're the ones who oversee the court and they oversee the executive branch, which only has one elected, well, it has a vice president and president, but has thousands and thousands of employees who are never elected by anybody. Okay, so what he chose to talk about, the weaponization, and as I said, he looked at it as an institution. What his point was, brilliant point. He said throughout its creation, the FBI was very decentralized. And by that, he meant that instead of all the power being in one office, it was spread throughout the country. There are field offices of the FBI everywhere, and they take a look at the crimes that are being committed, obviously federal crimes, and they investigate those. And each of those offices has like 4 layers. There are actual agents, then they have supervisors, and at the top is the supervisor. So in each office, in each place in America, there are multiple steps for decision making to take place. Well, about 2 decades ago, or a little less than that, Mueller, and you'll remember Mueller was the guy who they named as the investigator for Trump and the so-called Russian collusion. And his conclusion was that there was no evidence of it. And he slammed the DOJ and he slammed the FBI. Okay. When Mueller took over, they started to centralize. And that means the decisions made on prosecutions, on investigations, and so forth were centralized in Washington, D.C. I believe they call it the 6th floor of the DOJ building. And those characters are making the decisions. They're appointing the people to investigate. They're controlling where the investigations go. And Speaker Johnson had several whistleblowers from the FBI come forward and say, this has destroyed the FBI. Instead of having multiple eyes looking at an investigation to decide whether or not it was accurate or whether or not it was for political reasons, it's now out of Washington, D.C. So not only did he articulate what the problem was, but the solution, and that is return to a decentralized, not a crazy solution like cut all their money, not defund the FBI, but a serious assessment of how institutionally the FBI and the DOJ need to be decentralized. Too much power in that one floor, in that one building, has corrupted it. Okay, we have a caller on hold. Let's see. Is it Matthew? Matthew, how are you this evening?
I'm doing okay. Well,
good.
Before you start singing Speaker Johnson's praises, he's still all in favor of taking taxpayer money and funding foreign wars, although he did hold up on the Ukraine thing. So there's that. So I don't know. He's also releasing more of the January 6th footage, but it's going to be only after they black out all the faces. So that will be coming out in November of 2024.
Yeah, I'm on the issue of foreign wars and aid to foreign armies and aid to foreign governments. I'm glad we have oversight of that, and I Johnson is in a really, really tough position there. He really is, and he's trying, I believe, and I think he'll be successful. He's trying to have it examined, like the DOJ, as I mentioned a moment before, from an institutional standpoint. But the action that's going on and the stories that are being told right now, it looks to me, I don't know about you, but it looks to me like the Middle Eastern radical Islamists are just begging for America to get involved in that thing. And
oh yeah, absolutely. And they would love it.
and they would love it. Big bad America once again. It would tear up America. We're not in it right now, and the protesters are right now as radical as I've seen them, stopping traffic, burning, looting, threatening people. I covered 2 of the stories last week. That high school teacher who was Jewish that was threatened by all the high school students. Really out of control.
Well, that kind of brings me to I think it was the second topic you brought up, which was the immigration.
Yes.
And how the New York Times said that Department of Homeland Security, Health and Human Services was missing, 18,000?
85,000.
Illegal
85,000. 85,000.
Okay,
yes.
illegal immigrant youths.
Yes.
The reason I think they were missing them is because they never existed. I've seen wave after wave after wave after wave of men between the ages of, looks like 16 at the youngest to, I've seen them looking like they were about in their early 60s at the oldest coming across the border. Haven't seen a kid in over 2 years. I did see someone that first started, but then the kids disappeared. So I don't think there are any kids coming across.
Well,
I think it's a third column coming in here, which takes us back to the Middle Eastern War.
Well, let me stay focused on the topic, and that topic is the children.
You can't, because all the topics bounce all over the place.
Well, I am going to remain on topic.
Good luck. Good luck.
Others can pour about whatever they want to, but this issue, the 85,000 that are missing, according to the New York Times, 85,000 unaccounted for, is only a small portion of the over 300,000 that have entered the United States since President Biden took over. Okay? Now,
that's just children, right?
Yes, 18, younger than 18. Younger than 18.
Younger than 18.
Okay. And why is this issue important? Before I get into it, we got to take a break. Matthew, can you hold on until after the break?
I would love to hold on, Jack.
All right, I know you'd like to hold on, so stay with me. We're going to take a break, folks. We'll be back in about a couple of minutes. It's a news break, and we'll see you after the break. Thank you very much.
When the time came, I knew I had to find a place where Mom would be safe and active while still feeling independent. A place that was close to all of us and everything she needed. Locally owned and operated in the heart of Gonzales, I found Francois Ben's Senior Living. They specialize in independent and assisted living and memory care.
Call 225-647-BEND for more information on our special pre-leasing offers.
Francois Ben's Senior Living. Experience life as it should be.
Hello, this is Jack Clegg. Thank you for listening and participating in the Jack Clegg Show Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Our audience and management have asked us to extend the show to Thursday nights at 7 p.m. We will be, at least until the 2024 election is over, we will continue to oppose rich men north of Richmond who want to control what we think and control what we do.
You might be afraid to speak out for fear of cancel culture or losing your job. The Christian Garrick Show on WGSO is your platform. Noon to 2 weekdays right here on 990 AM WGSO.
Ryan Richardson here. Tune in every Saturday from 11 a.m. until 12 noon on WGSO 998 for conversations with Ryan Richardson.
Got your license to grill? Call Chew on This Saturdays at noon on WGSO and tell us all about it. Don Clement and Patty B are waiting to hear your cooking secrets.
Join me, Mitch Gibbs, live on WGSO Radio 990 AM every Saturday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. in our 8th season of Breakfast with the Bayou Bengals, talking LSU football live on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi at the Silver Slipper Casino, where we'll be talking LSU football all season long.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Colleen Crane. There will be a new runoff election for Caddo Parish Sheriff as the November 18th runoff election has been declared void. Retired Louisiana Supreme Court Justice E. Joseph Bleish made the ruling in the election lawsuit filed by Caddo Parish Sheriff's candidate John Nicholson, who lost to Henry Whitehorn by 1 vote. The ruling states it was proven beyond any doubt that there were at least 11 illegal votes cast and counted, and it is legally impossible to know what the true vote should have been. Whitehorn's team is expected to appeal this decision. State police have arrested a teenage driver involved in a fatal hit-and-run crash that occurred last week involving a bicyclist in Lafourche Parish. Trooper Ross Brennan says while troopers were at the scene of the crash, 19-year-old Isabel Wynn went to a sheriff's substation where she was interviewed about her involvement. Brennan says Wynn should have contacted authorities immediately.
You don't do any of that, that is considered a hit and run, and it could potentially become a felony like it is in this situation here.
All right.
Entergy Louisiana is strengthening our power grid from Lake Charles to Baton Rouge, Metairie to Monroe. Our blueprint covers the state. Nearly 10,000 projects, over 11,000 miles of transmission line. We're reinforcing infrastructure to prepare for stronger storms, reduce outages, and respond quicker when you do need us. We're making stronger connections in every community because together we power life.
Hey, are you planning to get an updated COVID-19 vaccine?
Yep. I don't want to get seriously sick and miss out on spending time with friends and family during the holidays.
Does it cancel out? I don't have insurance.
If you don't have health insurance, or if your insurance doesn't cover an updated COVID-19 vaccine, you can get one for free with the Bridge Access program. Just look for places that participate in Bridge Access on vaccines.gov.
Sounds good. Bridge Access on vaccines.gov.
A message from CDC.
A business without signage is like a car with a flat tire. It's not going anywhere fast. Sir Speedy can change that. We're a trusted resource for sign design and production. Whether you need trade show displays, banners, posters, directional signs, window decals, wall graphics, or more, Sir Speedy's sign capabilities can help your business get noticed. Call us today at 504-586-9812. Sir Speedy, we do it.
Hi, I'm Huck, an active Christian who loves Louisiana. One of my goals is to bring Louisiana's education from 50th to number 1.
And I'm Dave. I'm not afraid of government bureaucrats. I fear God. Our rights and freedoms come from Him.
This is Liberty or Lockdown. Please join us on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com.
What does grace mean to you? At Grace at the Green Light, a 501c3 nonprofit, we believe that everyone deserves a hot meal, clean drinking water, and the chance to go home again. Our work is made possible through the generous support of Christ Church Cathedral, the Cathedral Church of the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana. Christ Church Cathedral acts in support of community renewal and socio-economic justice. Learn more at cccnola.org.
This is Kate Delaney from America Tonight. The show kicks on at midnight, and I'm loving the overwhelming support in New Orleans. What a group of fantastic listeners here on WGSO 990 AM. Join me every morning to catch up on what I call the buzz in your backyard and mine. You'll hear some of the most interesting people on the planet from the world of business, politics, sports, and, well, just intriguing people with a story to tell. If you're around, give us a call. Don't worry, I'll spit out the number plenty of times on the air. Let's agree to meet at midnight right here on WGSO 990 AM.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome back to the third segment of the Jack Clgg Show on WGSO 990 AM and WGSO.com. We were talking about the proposed rule put in place by the Department of Health and Human Services. This proposed rule was issued in September, and it dealt with the vetting, or actually the lack of vetting, by sponsors of the today it's over 300,000 less than 18-year-olds in America. Okay, now this rule, and I won't read you the whole thing. It's like 14 pages long, but in it they put forward the rule that would not require, meaning it wasn't a requirement, of the government employees and contract workers who work at the Office of Refugee Resettlement. That's called the ORR. Again, nobody's heard of this. It's just like that Office of Population Affairs that we talked about a couple of months ago, that did everything to support gender-affirming care, but without letting people know that this is part of population control that the government is involved in. All right. They do not require these sponsors to follow vetting procedures. Okay. The government agency, this is in the letter that Senator Grassley of Iowa sent, signed by 39 other senators to HHS. It says the government agency, under this proposed rule, does not require that the home where the child would live be inspected beforehand. 2, nor would the adult's employment background be issued. They wouldn't have to say where they work or what they did or if they worked. The government would also not require child welfare officials to interview members of the household where the child would live. They don't require fingerprinting of the adults in the household or conduct any background checks with the country of origin criminal records in the case that the adult sponsor is not a U.S. citizen. And according to the letter, many of the sponsors are not U.S. citizens. Even more concerning, according to the letter, was HHS has already begun enforcing the rule internally, unbeknownst to the public. We don't even know this. So, well, Matthew, you're back on. Matthew, while you're correct that, and I noticed it too, within the last 8 months, maybe 6 or 8 months, we've seen strapping young men coming across the border. These do not look like people who need to be taken care of. They look like people that have been sent here on a mission. We don't know what that is. But what we're talking about tonight was this HHS. What do they have in their mind that there's no paper trail to find these kids? 85,000, I think, was just a drop in the bucket. Go ahead, Matthew. Didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I'm willing to bet you that when they're not on the clock, they can find them. At least some of them. I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush. I prefer to use fine brushes, not rollers, for doing fine painting for something as complex as society. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that some of them know where those kids are. You can go visit them every night. So another issue that you had brought up was New York was attempting to register illegal aliens to vote. Now, I think, and I'm not sure, but I think that is a violation of federal law, but I'm not sure if it's allowed in local elections or not. The states have wide latitude on that. But I know in Pennsylvania they're being registered to vote in federal elections.
Well, and that is very troubling. In New York, in particular, it's Representative Nicole Malliotakis, Greek girl, sounds like to me, who's a Republican, and she has found what she calls the smoking gun. And I read it. It's pretty damning. Now, about a year and a half ago, I think it was 2021, the end of 2021, I had heard that in New York, and particularly New York City, around the area, the city council had passed a provision allowing for non-citizens to vote in local elections. And they started registering them. And they started registering them. Well, that's been overturned for a variety of reasons, but that's no longer the law. Okay, good. That's great. That should have been the end of it. But it's not the end of it. The document that she found was called, and I'll get to that, This was a 3-year contract, and she had to use a Freedom of Information Act request to get it. People were talking about it. The government wasn't, the city of New York was not supplying it. The 3-year contract is valued at $28 million and stipulates an agreement between the city and an organization called Homes for the Homeless to operate shelters in Midland Beach, which is right outside of town. Okay. On page 50 of the contract, there's an entire section dedicated to voter registration. In particular, it stipulates that the nonprofit entity, this Home for Homeless, quote, shall provide and distribute voter registration forms to all persons. The forms are available in both Chinese and Spanish. The document also states that the nonprofit contract, quote, shall not the nonprofit entity, quote, shall not inquire about a client or potential client's immigration status. So, okay, how long ago has it been, Matthew, that you heard that the reason the Democrats were soft on immigration was that they thought they could enroll the illegal immigrants in Democratic voter registration drives? How long ago has that been?
I think I first started hearing about that possibility in 2019.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was even earlier than that. Maybe it was 2015.
I remember hearing it as far back, and in 2015 is right, as far back as the Obama administration. Remember, the Obama administration had this odd good news, bad news. Good news is we've got people surging over the border for them, and their bad news was, well, our Border Patrol, they worked real well, and they caught a lot of them, and many were deported. In fact, I remember during the Obama administration, they deported more people than ever before, until the Trump administration, of course. And in the Trump administration, not only did they deport the ones that got in, but they stopped them from coming in. We had the Remain in Mexico policy and all kinds of other things that prevented the problems that we're having today. And all of that time, years ago, 8-10 years ago, we are hearing people speculating that the reason the Democrats are in favor is to get these new people to be voters. Now, I took that with a grain of salt. You know, it's like, okay, you don't like Democrats, you think this is what they're doing. All right. Show me the document. Show me what it is. Well, when I read this article about the New York contract between the city and the nonprofit entity Homes for the Homeless, in which they are required under the contract to give these people voter registration forms, both in Chinese and in Spanish, I'm thinking, what are they doing? This, you know, I mean, and of course the Homes for the Homeless are saying, no, this isn't what it really means. It means something else. Well, I'm reading the words. It means what I said it means, that they're trying to register people, and to perform the contract for the city of New York, they're required to provide and distribute voter registration forms to all persons. That's a quote from the deal. Okay. So to me, this is a huge issue, and we're going to take a break. A comment before we let you go, Matthew.
Yeah, I would say the major issue, it doesn't get much airplay because they keep distracting us with other issues.
Right.
Remember when I said you have to focus on multiple things all at the same time, all simultaneously?
Well, yes.
That's part of the plan, is to flood the zone with so much information that you cannot focus on any one thing.
And I think I think the media is hands-on this, and the truth is hard to find. That's why we have the Jack Clgg Show on WGSO. Anyway, Matthew, thanks for calling. We'll talk to you maybe Thursday night. Thank you. All right, folks, we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back in a few minutes. We've got another couple of callers. And this is the Jack Clegg Show, WGSO.com.
WGSO General Manager, Mary Ann Guzman.
WGSO is locally owned and operated right here in New Orleans. We believe in cultivating local talent and emphasize local programs. If you have an interest in hosting your own program, then we have some prime spots available.
Thanks, Mary Ann. Folks, take advantage of this great offer. Email me at jeff@wgso.com or call me at 504-669-6076. I'll fulfill your radio dreams at WGSO.
Hi, I'm William Wallace. Hear me live Tuesday night at 5 o'clock here on WGSO, or see what I have to say on Facebook at William Wallace.
Hello, this is David Jeremiah. Join me each weekday morning at 5:30 or 6:30 for Turning Point here on Talk Radio 990 AM.
The fastest growing conservative talk show in the South is now on 5 days a week on WGSO 990. That's right, American Ground Radio has moved from Saturdays to Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 p.m. American Ground Radio is based out of Louisiana and is grounded in the ideas that founded our country. American Ground Radio is a show for everyone who believes there is greatness within each of us. So tune in Monday through Friday starting at 8 p.m. on the community voice of the Crescent City, WGSO 990 AM.
Lance Christian, DTS Appliance Director, moving to City Park. Go now to their current location, 3240 Paris Road in Chalmette, right next to Dixie. DTS Appliance Director, liquidating their current inventory up to 25% off on appliances, high-end appliances, Xenon, Blaze Grill, Monogram, Cafe, Hire, and many more. Call DTS Appliance Director, 504-766-0738. Take advantage of this massive deal. Call DTS Appliance Direct 504-766-0738.
Boy, have we got a show for you this week. Ever wonder where all the great songs have gone? Well, we found them. Hey everyone, I'm Pat Matthews, your host of 70s Deja Vu. And once again, I'll be looking in the rearview mirror, and I'll see you in the backseat. Join me for some great music, all selected to get you going on 70s Deja Vu. Sunday morning at 7 a.m., right here on 990 AM WGSO.
Hi, I'm Patrick Wilson. One of the things I love about Louisiana is its beautiful natural landscape and its unique scenery. Let's preserve it. Please don't trash Louisiana with propane cylinders that are no longer certified. Bring these cylinders to your propane dealer so that they may dispose of them safely. Be a saint, and let's keep Louisiana beautiful.
This safety message is brought to you by the Louisiana Liquefied Petroleum Gas Commission and the Louisiana Propane Industry.
Dave, get up. Get up. It's 8:30 a.m. We got a show on Everything Old is New Again. Our show is on the air at 9 a.m. this morning and every Saturday morning.
Oh, you need to change from one today?
Yeah, WGSO 990 a.m. They would like us to wake up New Orleans every Saturday morning with Everything Old is New Again at 9 a.m. Come on, let's go. Come on, we don't have to take a shower. Don't need to, we'll do it on the air. Don't worry. All right, we'll do it here. Everything Old is New Again. 9 o'clock Saturdays.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome back to the Jack Clegg Show. This is the fourth and final segment of the show. And we have one of our all-time favorite callers, Rusty, online. Rusty, how are you this evening?
Pretty good, Jack. You had an interesting conversation. I'm going to keep my thoughts hopefully within 30, 40 seconds.
That's okay.
Because both of them are pretty strong.
Okay.
One of them is that we need in this country honest politicians who stop talking about immigration. We're obviously being flooded here with this illegal thing for the reason you and Matthew said. I remember Jay Leno, the Tonight Show guy, made some jokes about undocumented or illegals were undocumented voters.
Yes.
And basically, and you got to go back quite a year since he's been on.
Yes,
And
that's right.
the second thing is that this is a point of view that maybe I only have, but I don't think there's an anti-Semitic thing going on in this country. You mentioned some person being threatened who was Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do with the Israel thing. There was never any strong anti-Semitic movement or major groups against Jewish people in general. It's the Israeli war, which basically I just have to have one thought on this.
Sure.
There's a difference between being anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. A lot of people, even you mentioned Mike Johnson, he doesn't even want to give money to Israel until we take care of our own borders. And that's the problem with all these people we're giving money to. We're not taking care of our own situation and so on. And I think some people are using that to say, oh, you're not giving to Israel, you might be anti-Semitic.
I believe what you're saying has some merit. I really do. I do. No, I'm serious. Okay. The people that want to fund the Ukraine, I'll start there.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Once this Palestinian-Israeli thing developed, okay, there was the people who were supporting money that went to Ukraine. What does that money go for? Well, we don't know because it's unaccounted for, but we know that it goes to pay government employees. It goes to pay pensioners. We are subsidizing the economy of the Ukraine. Now, they're in a time of war. They need help. I got that. But why don't we know exactly where the money is going? Why doesn't Congress know that? Okay. Now, the Israel-Palestine thing begins, and the people who favor sending money to the Ukraine don't want to lose any of that money. So they divide it into a couple of different spheres. And I don't believe they're anti-Semitic. I don't believe they're anti-Arab. Yeah. They just don't want the money going to Ukraine to be reduced. And so, and I think poor Johnson is in the middle of this juggling of issues and identities. People, and the other thing is, I think you were about to say, and I tend to agree that while there are a lot of people that, and particularly young people, they're misled in many ways. And they look at the Palestinian-Israel thing as oppressed and oppressor. And that's the wrong view of history. It is not the way Israel developed. It is not the way the people who live in Palestine developed. These are relatively recent developments. When I say relatively, less than 100 years. If you go back further than that, there wasn't an Israeli state. There was a group of people called Israel. That's where they were. They didn't even call themselves Israel. But this was the Jewish state. We know it. It was there. It didn't have borders. It was there. And they had to deal with their neighbors like everybody else had to deal with their neighbors. Sometimes there was fighting. Sometimes there was trading. Sometimes there was mutual assistance against Genghis Khan and the hordes from the east. I mean, history tells an interesting story about this part of the world that we don't know here in New Orleans. We have a very shallow history. What, 200 years? So the idea of anti-Semitism developed in World War II. Before that, there were always people who didn't like the moneylenders. Read the Bible, right? And of course, that's a human reaction. If you don't have much money and somebody wants to charge you interest to give you money, you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. But they make money off loaning money. So for years, there has been silent anti-Semitism. I mean,
okay. I don't know anybody like that, Jack. To me, I was listening to someone on TV saying this is a new phenomenon, this anti-Jewish stuff. No, maybe there's always something underneath with any group of people or any individual for that matter. But I think these people that are protesting, I was listening to something right before I called you, they're sleeper cells in this country who are basically Muslims who are now joining these students or look like students that are coming out, and they're making it look like American students and Americans in general have now turned against the Jews, like they're the new Nazis. I think it's ridiculous.
Well,
I don't think that's happening.
That and you a great point. You raised a great point. The sad thing is we don't know if there's a march with 10,000 people. Nobody says how many of you have Arab lineage. How many of you are Irish? How many of you are Italian and you happen to have a boyfriend? I mean, what is the reason you're doing? We don't know, since we don't
know. And I agree that there are people who are sympathetic because of, like you said, the Palestinians being seemingly to be the victims.
Right.
But I think a lot of this is basically sleeper cells that have been coming in. We were talking about immigration a few minutes ago. They've been coming in that country for many decades, and they're showing their face now. And it's not really the American people that are turning against the Jews. It's people that we've been letting in this country who have no regard for basically different people, including Jews.
Rusty, have you been reading my research notes? Because Thursday night's show, one of the main topics, and I'm going to talk about this for a couple of nights, is multiculturalism.
Right.
It's huge. And we really need to talk about what it means, what it doesn't mean. And you right now are probing the real problems in multiculturalism. And let me give you a good example. Let me give you a great example. Do you remember in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, what went on between Northern Ireland and England?
There was a civil, they were fighting over
the Catholics and the Protestants, the Protestants, and they were all fighting.
Right.
There were English in America and there were Irish in America. The battle didn't take place in America. It was over there. And this has changed things. Our multiculturalism is different. And Thursday night, please listen, I'll have some thoughts on multiculturalism because we're a great country. But to be a great country, we have to have Americans.
Yes.
That's the key. And we're going to talk about that Thursday. And please give us thanks for the call tonight, Rusty.
Thank you, Jack.
All right, buddy, be good. And for the rest of our audience, I'm giving a little brief into what our Thursday night show is going to be, because it really is the essence of America. I know people don't like to talk about nationalism, about being an American and what it means. Thursday night, we're going to talk about it. All right. Thanks for joining the show. Jack Clgg Show, WGSO, 990 AM. See you Thursday night.
Hey, it's Kevin Carr with your personal sneak preview invitation to join me on Sunday evening from 8 to 9 for Fat Guys at the Movies. Each week, I